Good evening. Welcome to our second Halloween show. We're very excited about it. This is where we have our listeners email us stories, and we're going to be reading them on the show. If you want to be on the show, send us an email at pfableorfact@proton.me. Our Facebook, YouTube, the rules, and the rules for debunkers are in the show notes. Like, give us a good review, hit that notification bell, and subscribe. Our appreciation goes out to our veterans, our troops, our first responders. God be with you and yours.
Yes.
Just want to take a second to talk about our older shows having the sound effects. We know some of them are annoying. The original sound editor that I used, I went back to all the older shows before I posted them on YouTube, and I de-amplified a lot of the sound effects to make them a lot more faint so that they weren't so obnoxious. For some reason, the older sound editor that I was using at the time, I go back just recently and I started listening to them on YouTube, and the sound effects are obnoxious. They're loud. It didn't do anything.
Yeah, it didn't help.
No, it didn't help at all. And the problem is that if I take them off of YouTube, you can't just edit them and then repost them. You have to completely delete it.
Which will make us lose our reviews.
All the reviews, all the comments, we'll lose all of the likes, all of the everything. So until the show gets a little bigger, you know, if we have like thousands and thousands of people subscribing and stuff, then I'll go back and delete those older shows.
And just remember, we are not professionals.
Yeah. Yes, we're not professional podcasters. Anyway, so we're doing the Halloween special. These are emails that we got from you guys, the listeners.
Right, and we got quite a few, and we're not using every one that we got. So if you sent us something, please know that we are going to use your story in the future. It just wasn't your time yet.
Right.
But thank you very much for sending them in.
Yes, we couldn't get to all of them, so hopefully, and I don't want the show to be too long, so let's get going, baby. The first story, drum roll please. It's called The Curse. Now, when I first read the title, I was like, whoa. And this comes to us from Jay. Okay, it starts off, I listened to the story episode where your dad was speaking of how his cousin mysteriously died in that minor car crash. It's what made me want to write in and tell you my story. When we first moved to the States from Canada, I found out that my family was cursed. My grandmother was from the Cree First Nation. Something happened way back in our ancestry that side of the family never spoke about. My ancestors were cursed by an old neighbor over some type of family dispute. Apparently, the offended neighbor was a powerful medicine man who sent a dark spirit that would cause misfortune to anyone and everyone in our bloodline. There have been strange deaths in my family for as long as I can remember. A string of rare diseases, multiple strange accidents like slipping on the sidewalk and hitting their head. Man, when I first read that, I was just like, what?
Yeah.
So I guess they slipped and tripped on the sidewalk and actually died, hitting their head on the sidewalk. And occasional unthinkable suicides. Some Cree believe in powerful curses from the old ways, and whoever cursed us had to be very powerful and evil. My family's move to the States was warned against by my grandmother. She said we would provoke the dark spirit by doing so. I was only 6 when we moved here, and I had an imaginary friend, a little girl in a blue Victorian dress. I remember brushing each other's hair and jumping rope with her. She had long, dark hair and always wore a cute little hat and was missing the 2 top front teeth. My mother would go outside and leave the house every time the little girl came over to play. I thought this was very strange. She didn't tell me until I was older, but she said the little girl had no legs. So I guess like an apparition?
Yeah.
My brother couldn't see her, but he could hear her talking and laughing. Oh, he would hide in his room because it scared him. Later on, my brother told me that one time he saw her standing in the hallway. She just stared at him, and her eyes were solid black. He He was so scared that he stayed over at a friend's house for 3 nights straight.
Wow.
Wow. We sold that house in Michigan when I was 12 and moved, so they were there for 6 years, and moved to a bigger house. I never saw the little girl again until I was 13. I dreamed that she was angry at me for leaving her. I suffered from sleep paralysis, waking up face down, unable to move while she smacked my bare skin with her fingers. It hurt so badly and I was terrified. I don't know how long she tormented me, but suddenly my mother burst into the room, saying she heard me calling her. As soon as my mom entered my bedroom, I could move again and the pain went away. My God.
That's so terrible that you can't move.
We have had our house blessed and cleansed several times. Every now and again the activity would flare up, things would get thrown, our clothing would be shredded, and we would hear terrible screams that came from nowhere. Then we would bless the house and the activity would go away for a few years. My grandmother told me it was the dark spirit. Eventually I graduated and joined the Air Force. I got married to the love of my life and have 2 beautiful children. I was hesitant to write you this email because I didn't want to provoke, quote-unquote, the spirit, but truth be told, I haven't had any activity since I moved out of my parents' house, knock on wood. Love your show. Thank you for the hours of entertainment, Jay. P.S. My parents still live in that house. I begged them to move, but they are content staying there for now. I think they are crazy, but I still love them. Wow.
Wow, great story.
Excellent story. I don't know. I haven't done any research on First Nations curses or a lot of First Nations folklore and mysticism and all that, and the medicine men and stuff.
Right.
But I think there's a lot of similarities between the First Nations and the Native American people, because it's all,
right,
and the Inuits and all that, they all have a type of medicine men, shamans, stuff like that. So,
yeah.
So the fact that this curse, it makes me curious that her grandmother knew about it.
Yeah.
So it must have gone back generations.
Right.
Which is just insane when you think about it. That somebody cursed their whole bloodline.
Well, 1, Jay, thank you for your service in the Air Force.
Yes.
Appreciate that.
Yes.
2, I hope you are enjoying your lovely life. It sounds like you have a great life.
Yeah.
And 3, thank you so much for being a listener and supporting us. We enjoyed that. And thank you for the story.
Absolutely.
Thank you for the story.
Excellent story.
Yes, great story.
And I hope we did it justice.
I hope so too.
So moving on to the next story. It's called The Barn. Hello, Victor and beautiful wife, Tammy. Call me Fanbig. I love your show. I hope my story makes the cut for the Halloween special. Every summer, we visited my grandparents in El Centro, California since we were kids. Around 1994 or so, my brother and I went to see them by ourselves. I was about 14, so my little brother was about 12 at the time. My brother ran into the house one morning crying hysterically. My grandma thought he was injured but couldn't find anything wrong, so she put him down for a nap.
They need a nap.
My mom would tell us, take 2 aspirin and lie down.
Yeah.
I was really curious, so I kept bugging him until he finally told me what was wrong. He said he saw a little man in the barn that chased him. I tried not to laugh because I could tell he was really scared, and my brother was a big chicken. We couldn't ever watch scary movies as a family because he would be up all night and refuse to sleep. It really sucked for me since I'm a big fan of horror. Anyway.
That's me. I'm so scared of scary movies.
Yeah, we can't watch horror movies because of Tammy. Anyway, continuing with the story. Anyway, I talked him into going out to the barn to show me where he had seen the little man. I had to swear that I believed him first, even though I really didn't. It was in the afternoon, but still really sunny outside. As we were on our way to the barn, we saw something small run from behind the barn toward a small orchard of citrus trees. I was frozen in place because it didn't look like a little man. To me, it looked like a small shadow, partially translucent. I could see the grapevines through its body behind it as it ran. Ooh.
Yeah.
My brother freaked and ran back to the house, but I wanted to get a better look. Yeah, there you go. The curiosity killed the cat. I took a few minutes to pluck up my courage. When my grandfather called me back to the house, he said it was a duende and that I should leave it alone. If either of us ever saw it again, we were to run back to the house immediately. My grandpa wouldn't say anything more about it, no matter how many questions I asked. I never forgot what we saw, and when I got older, I looked up what a duende is. I'm sure you already know, but it is the small folk of Mexican folklore, like the Irish leprechaun or the Norwegian nissie. They are mischievous and are believed to remove children's toes while they sleep or lead them away from home so that they get lost. Although I was told repeatedly not to, I went out at night around the barn every summer after that looking for the duende, even if I had to sneak out. I only saw it one other time, and I never looked for it again after that. I was searching around the barn when it suddenly appeared in the beam of my flashlight. Once again, it just looked like a small shadow around 2 feet tall, and it was on 2 legs. I looked carefully for its face when it became a very wide mouth, lined with teeth gaping wide enough to look like it could bite my head clean off. I ran back to the house and climbed into my window and hid in the closet all night. Man.
Yep.
Like I said, I never looked for it again after that, and I never forgot how badly it frightened me. My wife is Mexican, and she believes that I was lucky to get away from it because some types of duende are very evil and vindictive. It could have plagued me with misfortune for years. I hope my email isn't too long. No, it is not. Thank you all for what you do, and God bless both of you, Fanbig. Wow.
Great story, Fanbig.
What a story, Fanbig. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Awesome.
And God bless you too.
Yeah, God bless you too and your family.
Wow, that's a really good story.
I never heard of a duende being able to shapeshift like that too.
Yeah.
Because he said it looked like a shadow, then the face just became like a mouth.
Yeah. Spooky.
Oh, man.
Gives me chills.
Yeah, I would have hid in the closet too, man. So, moving on to the next story. This is called The Summer of 1984 from Dan. The year was 1984. I was 14 years old and visiting my grandparents' home in Southern California. They lived in a 1940s modest, small, 3-bedroom porched home, white picket fence with a detached garage in back. She had a beautiful brick fireplace whose someone painted white. Even as a kid, I would stare at it and thought, someone ruined the fireplace by painting it. My grandparents needed to run some local errands. The LA Summer Olympics was starting and I wanted to watch it on TV. I decided to stay and watch while they ran their errands. On a side note, when I was young, I was interested in the paranormal and would always sense if the house or building was haunted. I never felt uncomfortable or that feeling in their home, but 100% felt a presence and a distinct smell in their detached garage. I always felt that it was weird and never told anybody what I felt. I turned on the TV and sat on the couch. The fireplace was directly to my left, and I could see into the kitchen toward the back door leading to the garage. I was calm, felt no negativity, and wasn't thinking anything but the Olympics. While sitting on the couch watching the swimming events, I instantly was physically thrown down on the ground and felt the worst pain in my head I've ever had. The pain was so bad I 100% believed I was having an aneurysm, but couldn't understand the force that threw me down or held me down. I chalked it up to the pain I had in my head. I felt like a ton of bricks was on top of me and physically could not move. Like a waking sleep paralysis, but he was awake.
Wow.
I forced my head to the left to look toward the kitchen where the phone was hanging on the wall. I knew I had to make a 911 call or I was going to die. As I intently stared at the phone hanging on the wall, I attempted to crawl to it and was unable to move an inch. I asked myself, is this the end? My head felt like it was ripping in half, and I thought I was going to pass out from the pain. Within an instant, the pressure let up, the pain stopped, and I sprung up and stood there in absolute confusion. No pain, no pressure. Then immediately I felt like I wasn't alone. I kept looking over my shoulder and possibly hearing a voice or voices I couldn't make out. I looked out toward the garage out back. I had an overwhelming feeling of negativity, anger, and hate. I knew I had to leave the house. I sat on the porch shaking from fear and waited for my grandparents to arrive. When they returned, I told them I was going to walk home. I also didn't say anything about what had just happened to me. I was terrified. They said they would drive me. I needed to wrap my head around what had just happened, and I insisted to walk home. It was only 3 or 4 miles. Back then when you were a kid, just walking 3 or 4 miles. Just 3 or 4 miles.
Yeah. Yeah.
I never told a soul of what occurred on that day until well after my grandparents moved away years later, and I overheard my mom in the other room talking on the phone to my grandmother about how and why they had repainted the fireplace in that old home. I instantly walked in to my mom and told her I needed to talk to her. She hung up and I questioned her about what I had overheard. She told me that she never wanted to freak me out, but my grandparents had made a deal on the house because it wasn't selling. They were told there was a family murdered in it. The story she told me was that the father shot and killed his wife and kids, then left and ended up being shot and killed by local police in a suicide by cop scenario. Oh God. The fireplace still had blood stains on the brick and mortar from the family member killed in front of it before they moved in. They repainted the walls in the fireplace. That's why that fireplace was repainted.
Wow.
Had paint on it because there's still blood on it.
Oh, that gives me chills.
Oh. I then told my mom what occurred to me in the summer of '84. I told her where I had my experience right in front of the fireplace, wanting to call 911 and knowing I was about to die. I also told her about my feelings about the garage as well. She shared that my much younger cousin was always looking out the window toward the garage and was afraid to play out there, although my mom said my grandmother never felt uncomfortable in her home or had any experiences. To this day, I am fascinated, disturbed, confused, and always questioning what actually happened that summer afternoon. Was I having a psychic connection to what happened? Was I being attacked by the insane father spirit? Was a victim spirit trying to share what occurred in that home? Is there such a thing as residual energy, and I unfortunately tapped into? So many questions I'll never have an answer to. In the years since, I have passed the house so many times and wanting to contact the owner and ask if they ever had any experiences, but knew it would be an awkward situation and never stopped. I will never forget the summer of '84. Dan.
Wow. Great story, Dan.
Excellent story.
Oh, that gives me the heebie-jeebies.
I believe that what he went through was residual energy. He tapped into it, and he relived the final moments of that person.
Oh, that's terrible.
So when he felt like he was looking toward the phone but couldn't do anything about it, they passed away. They didn't make it. Oh, and that's when he got released, and he stood up and was like, what just happened?
Yeah.
You know, that was their final moments.
Yeah.
I don't believe that there was probably any spirits there. I think it was lingering negative energy, and unfortunately, because he was sensitive,
yeah,
he was hit by it.
Yeah,
that's a very sad thing. Yeah. And that is so interesting because that's what I believe happened at the Amityville Horror House. When those 6 people were murdered in that home, I believe it left a lot of negative energy.
Yeah.
And remember our conclusion that's what George Lutz tapped into. But anyway, I don't want to get off on a side effect. Excellent story, Dan. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dan.
Loved that story.
Yeah, that was a great story. They're all great stories.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So let's go on to the next one. I hope we're not running too long because I would love to try to discuss each one and kind of say what we think it was, you know? So the next one is, Hello Vic. There's no title. Hello Victor. Hello Tammy. I wasn't going to send you my story initially because it frightened me so much, and I am still plagued by nightmares to this day. About 7 years ago, I lost my husband to an accident while he was serving in the military. Oh, that's terrible. They were doing some type of maneuver, and apparently the chopper they were in went down. Everyone was injured, but my husband and another airman didn't make it. Oh.
So sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's terrible. We had been living in a house that was at the back end of his parents' property in Springfield, Missouri. While we were together, everything was fine. The place was lovely, with a back porch that went right into a flower garden and a small pond built right into the cobblestones. Wow, that sounds gorgeous. The kitchen was so big and spacious that I was motivated to improve my cooking skills and planted a bunch of different fresh herbs in the garden area. My in-laws are very kind people, and I get along with them immensely. I had never been so happy in my life. Everything seemed to shift as soon as my husband was deployed. He was going to be gone a year, so I had already planned on being there alone and knew it was going to be difficult. At night, I would hear strange whispers and rhythmic knocking sounds in the garden. I would just turn on all the lights in the backyard and the garden. There were strings of large white Christmas lights suspended over the whole garden. Oh, in parentheses, she put that. So I guess they could just flip one switch and all these lights came on in the backyard. And made sure that all the doors and windows were locked. After a few months of this, I had a few too many glasses of wine and was trying to watch a sad movie curled up on the couch. I was an emotional wreck, missing my husband and feeling lonely at the time. The knocking started again from the backyard. I flew into a rage. Sick and tired of whatever it was bothering and scaring me, I threw open the back door, flipped on the lights, and stormed out into the garden screaming at whatever it was to just stop. I told it to just leave me alone. I told whatever it was to go away. It was not welcome there. I became aware that the knocking was coming from the small, shallow pond that was in the middle of the garden. This doesn't make any sense, though, because it was a manufactured pond that was handmade and put in by my father-in-law years before. We kept it full with the garden hose, and there was no outside source of water feeding it besides rainfall. The knocking was growing louder and almost insistent, as though it was trying to get my attention. I stepped to the edge and peered into the water. At first, I could only see the dark cobblestone, and the water was shallow, maybe 6 inches deep at the edges, to only about 2 feet deep in the middle. There was only a small amounts of algae and no plants in the pond since we treated it with chlorine tablets. Then I saw her. My God. I still get chills and probably will for the rest of my life. There was a young black girl in the water, maybe 8 or 9 years old, lying on her back at the bottom of the pond. She had short curly brown hair and was dressed in a short, pretty pink dress like young girls used to wear in the 1970s, sleeveless and pleated. Her eyes were closed, but her mouth was opened wide like she was screaming. I could see her pearly white teeth and that she was light-skinned, perhaps half white. I wasn't scared at first because for some reason I thought it was a prank by some kids or something. I looked around for anyone else that could be watching me. I started getting even more angry that some little brats were laughing at my expense, even though my husband and I were making a sacrifice for our country by being apart for so long. I glanced back down into the water and saw that the girl had moved. She was now on her stomach looking at me with her eyes still closed, but her mouth was still wide open. My God. Her elbows and knees were bent at her sides like a frog pose. I stumbled back away from the water as she suddenly kicked out her legs and began swimming towards me. I fell, screaming, turning toward the side of the house and ran as fast as I could to my in-laws' place. I could hear wet footfalls splatting quickly behind me, sounding like they were getting closer and closer. I shrieked so loudly that my father-in-law met me as I was running towards his house. He had grabbed his rifle. As I clung to him, sobbing my ass out and shivering in terror, I could see that there was nothing following me. Of course not. My in-laws were convinced I had fallen asleep on the couch and had dreamed the whole thing. I wasn't angry they didn't believe me. I hardly believe it myself. I know it wasn't a dream because the very next day was when my husband passed. I don't know if that entity was trying to warn me or prepare me or maybe just wanted to scare me, but I know I wasn't dreaming when I saw her. I know I was outside because I lost both of my sandals running away from the thing. In order for both of my sandals to be flung about in the backyard during my dream, I would have had to sleepwalk, which I have never done prior or after this incident. I moved away shortly after, but still maintained contact with my in-laws, so that's good. Thank you for the opportunity to share what happened to me. I don't talk about it often because it reminds me of my lost love. Even after all this time and me being remarried, it still hurts to think about. I hope you both long health and life. God bless. Trudy. Well, God bless you too, Trudy, and so sorry about your husband. That's terrible.
Yes, thank you for sharing, Trudy, and God bless you, and God bless your in-laws, and thank you for the service of your husband and yourself.
Yeah.
Wow, that would have scared me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never, when I first got the email, I tried to do some research into seeing a young person in the water, boy or girl, race didn't really matter.
Yeah.
But I wanted to see if it was any kind of trickster or a fae or maybe a spirit. I couldn't find anything.
Wow.
I don't know what she saw.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's really crazy.
I mean, a skeptic could say, well, she had been drinking, but again, and I say this trying to stay calm about it. If you truly believe people are going to hallucinate to that effect under the effects of alcohol, you're either an imbecile or you've never had a drop to drink in your life. Alcohol is not a hallucinogen, period. So that I don't think that had anything to do with it. The thing is she validated her own story because she said she went out the next morning and she saw her sandals in the backyard strung about.
Correct.
That means she actually ran from it.
Right.
She wasn't dreaming.
Right.
Regardless of how convinced her in-laws were that she was. She wasn't. She couldn't have been.
Yeah.
How are you going to... I mean, even if you could argue she was sleepwalking, well, you don't sleep run.
No.
She's not going to take off so fast while sleepwalking that she's going to fling her sandals across the yard. You know what I mean?
Correct.
So, very, very creepy story. Thank you so much, Trudy.
Yes, thank you, Trudy.
So I just wanted to finish up with a quick story that I had with my younger brother. We had been out hunting, and we were on our way home. It was about late afternoon, somewhere around there. We were still in the brush, and we were almost to the main road, and we heard this kid just out of nowhere just start wailing like he was dying, like he had been injured, and it was just this just wailing horribly. It sounded like maybe a child of about maybe 2 or 3.
Oh, that's terrible.
Maybe 4, like a toddler size.
Yeah.
But like a little kid just wailing in pain. So we are looking around. It was very cold. We had our jackets on and everything. I remember when it was getting colder as we were coming home. But we both looked at each other and we knew I didn't want to go home without at least looking.
Right.
And making an attempt, especially when I could tell the temperature was going to plummet so much to read the next day or a couple of days later that some little kid went out there and got lost and froze to death. I would never be able to forgive myself. So regardless of how we were afraid to get in trouble, because back then you had to be home before dark, remember?
Right.
Remember,
Yeah.
remember those rules?
Yeah.
That applied to us as well. But I'm like, no, we got to keep looking for him. So we looked everywhere. Now, what started to happen is we started to get a little unsettled because it seemed the wind started to blow, and it was like all the trees and all the brush were just whispering, and you could just hear it. I mean, it was like noise all around us. The wind was freezing, cutting right through our clothes, and we're like looking. We would hear the wail, and it would seem to come from a certain direction. We'd go over there, and as soon as we seemed to be closing in on it, every time we would get close and we would think, oh, we're going to find him, we would hear it from another direction, either behind us or off in another direction.
That's spooky.
So we started looking at each other going, okay, wait a minute here. Something's not right.
Right.
This isn't normal. This isn't natural. So we just decided to go home. Now, we actually told my mom about it because she could tell we were shaking. We got home after dark. She was upset. My dad wasn't home yet, thank goodness. So we weren't going to be murdered.
Right.
But she was so concerned, my mom, she actually went outside and helped us look, from what I remember. I remember we all went out there and we were looking. So basically, to make a long story short, we didn't find anything that night. We didn't get in trouble for coming home after dark because my mom could tell we were upset. But anyway, months went by. I was over at a friend's house. I believe my younger brother was there too. And my friend's father was talking to his neighbor over the fence. And we were throwing a football around or something, goofing around, or with a frisbee or something. We were running around with the dogs. And we heard him telling a story, because he was an old timer. He was way older than my friend's dad, way older than my parents. Yeah. Probably my grandparents' age, probably a little older than my grandparents, actually. So he's telling him these stories about how when the first people came out there. And he's saying, yeah, up there by, so-and-so, I don't want to give, addresses or nothing, but up there, that's where the colonists first set up, even though there's nothing out there, there's nothing brush out there, but that's where they first set up. They even set up like an old pipe, and there is a pipe out there that still runs water. From what I understand, still spring water comes out of it to this day.
Okay.
So he said that's where they settled down up there. And so I thought, oh, what a perfect opportunity. So I asked him about what we had heard out there, this wailing kid. And he says, he goes, that's an old story. He goes, I haven't heard anybody talk about that in years. So apparently it was a well-known story in the area for a while. What had happened is I guess there was a brutal winter that swept through there. They were just in like tents and stuff. The early people that had got there, they were
settlers.
They were in the process of building their homes and stuff. Well, this little toddler had wandered off. And as frantically as they looked for this little guy, they couldn't find him. And they found him the next morning. When sunlight came up, they found him and he had frozen to death. So the legend was, on very cold nights, if in that area, sometimes they would hear this child crying and wailing on the wind, but you could never find him. And that's exactly what happened to me and my brother.
Wow, that's spooky.
So yeah, that's my story.
That's spooky.
Yeah. So that about does it.
Yeah, good stories, huh?
Yeah, good stories.
Thank you, listeners. We appreciate you guys. And thank you for the nice words, too. We appreciate that, too. And like I said, the ones that we didn't get to, I apologize, but we still have your stories, and we will post them soon.
Yes.
It'll probably be on a different type of story, but we still have your stories, and thank you for submitting them. We appreciate all of you guys. Thank you for listening, and thank you for supporting us. Good night.
Good night, everybody.